Hello. In this video, I'm going to share my process for making a Sonic the Hedgehog puppet out of a few sheets of paper. Welcome along. My name is Ben Stanley and I design and create paper puppets. And I'm here today with my latest creation, Sonic the Hedgehog. Wow! You designed me? That's true, yeah. Did you design me any food? I'm kind of hungry. Wouldn't mind a chili dog. No, I haven't designed you any food. I'm not entirely sure how you'd hold a chili dog, to be honest. And being as you made out of paper, I don't really know how eating would work. Oh yeah, that's true! Anyway, on this channel, I share how I make working replicas of beloved Muppets, puppets, characters, and creatures. But not chili dogs! But not chili dogs. So, if papercraft's your thing, please consider subscribing. Oh, by the way, I think there are some advantages to being made out of paper. Oh yeah? What's that? Well, I'm super lightweight, so, I can go faster. That's a very, very good point. So, how did you make me? Feels kind of weird asking that. Well, that's what this video is going to be about. It must have taken quite a long time to make something this magnificent. Yeah, it did. It took about a day. Are you going to show all that? That's going to take so long. Oh, no, don't worry. We're going to use time-lapse. Time-lapse. My origin story and fast forward. I can practically feel the rush of creativity as I come to life, like magic, but with a hedgehog twist. Who's ready to come on this high-speed adventure with me, where you'll witness my transformation from a flat piece of paper to the fastest, coolest hedgehog around? Let's roll! Okay. Well, this is how to make Sonic the Hedgehog! Too slow! Okay, so this isn't going to be like a full-on tutorial because I tried that and the video was just going to be too long. So I'm going to show you every stage, but I'm not going to go into massive detail. But hopefully there's enough for you to see how to put it together if you do want to give it a go, because I'll still share the template with you. So here you can see I'm starting with the face. And really the important thing here is to score and fold all of this before you start gluing. And obviously adding on the eyes and the ear bits there. These corners here are creating the ears, and it all sort of folds in. And here we get straight onto making the this is the sort of structure that holds the head in place, really. And I could have used blue paper here, but I was just trying to save a bit, so I used white, and then I've sort of used some bits that were left over from the bits of blue paper, just to cover the bits that are going to be seen. Anyway, adding the face onto this structure to give it that sort of 3D quality. And here, just pinching in that section of the structure there, because that's where the fingers are going to go, and as you can see, the thumb moving up and down is how you'll move his mouth action. And the next part of this process is to create his quills. Now, there isn't a huge amount to explain in terms of putting these quills together. You can pretty much see what I'm doing. So I thought I'd talk a bit about Sonic the Hedgehog himself. It's interesting, this puppet came about because at the time I started designing him, my son was just super into Sonic the Hedgehog. It was Sonic everything. And so I thought, well, you know what, I'll make him a puppet. And for me it was kind of going full circle, because Sonic the Hedgehog was the very first video game that I ever had bought for me, along with the Sega Mega Drive. I think it was the Genesis in the US. This was my first ever games console, and my first ever game, the original Sonic the Hedgehog game, which I absolutely loved. I never really massively got into video games beyond that, in all honesty, but Sonic the Hedgehog just filled my brain for a good year when I was little. And so yeah, so it's kind of a nice full circle moment to be creating him again here. And as you can see, the side that I created there, I kind of did the opposite side, and so we've got two sides, and then there's this sort of fifth quill going on there. And that's a case of just gluing it into the face, and all of this gluing takes a lot longer than I'm showing. As I say, the full build took me about a day to do, so it's kind of fiddly in all honesty, but you can get there. And then the next stage is to glue the top of the head to the back of the top quill. And then we're just going to secure these side quills into the main structure at the back to keep them nice and firm. And then the final section of the head is to create this bottom quill. It's a very similar design to the top one. It just glues into place underneath the top quill. But as you can see, there's still enough room to put your hand in underneath that bottom quill in order to operate the mouth of the puppet. And here we are with the mouth. Again, scoring and folding is really important before you do any of the gluing. And the teeth. I took inspiration for this Sonic puppet from various different iterations of Sonic, and I sort of thought, well, you can't ignore ugly Sonic, so I thought I'd give him some prominent teeth as well. Maybe I've gone too far, I don't know. And here you can see I'm just colouring in the internal part of the mouth, putting the tongue in there, and then this is going to be a tube that the thumb will go into, and then when the thumb moves up and down, that will lift the mouth open and closed. And then it's just a case of covering up there, so you can see it sort of moving around. And then for the nose, I actually used the end of a whiteboard marker, the little sort of rubbing out bit, but you could use a little lapel microphone end or something for that. And then I guess gluing it in, just using that flap below the eyes. And then we're onto the arms. Here I've used half a sheet of white paper and half a sheet of the coloured paper just to save on the coloured paper, but you could absolutely use a full sheet of that if you wanted to. And we're going to create some strengtheners here, because when you're putting the paper fasteners through, you want a couple of layers of paper to stop it potentially ripping out. And the same thing applies here for the sort of very top of the body, which is where you're going to put through the thread, which will attach eventually the head to the body. So I'm just sort of strengthening that. And then the body itself is just a long strip of paper, and we've got these various cuts in. We're going to fold those, which will create the spherical shape of the body. And again, we're just here creating where the arms are going to go in and strengthening those with some extra paper. So the paper fasteners go in here from the inside going out, and then it's a case of gluing together the flaps, which is going to create that spherical body shape. And once you get about halfway, then you're going to start thinking about adding in the top and bottom section. So here I'm putting in the top section, and again just line it up so that it's going to sit in the right direction. And then we're going to add on the arms, and again it's a bit fiddly, so get it done now before you've fully closed off the sphere. And again putting in the bottom section as well. All of this, in all honesty, is fiddly as you like, but if you persist, you can get it there. I found that actually using a few holes at the very bottom, which allow me to put the stick in and then just sort of hold it from the inside while you're holding the glue, because the glue does take a little bit of time to bond the paper. And then again, it's a case of just gluing together where the paper fasteners went in so you can hide those, and they're done. And then we're on to the shoes, and this kind of came about actually from my son, who created himself some paper slippers out of a sheet of paper. I was like, oh, that's really cool. I wonder if you could create a whole shoe from a single piece of paper, and this is the result. So I was kind of happy with how this came about, and grateful to him for creating some random paper slippers. And again, this, it's a case of making sure that in advance of everything, you're scoring everything and folding it before you start the gluing process. And as you can see, it all kind of just folds together out of a single sheet. And then we're going to add on the white stripe. And as well as that, we'll add on the buckle. And then we'll just put a piece of paper underneath for the sort of sole of the shoe. And then this is creating the socks. Again, I think it's half a sheet of A4 paper, folded and glued. And just make sure you glue at the back there. Then we're on to the legs, and again the legs, same way as the arms, same amount of paper. You could do it all with a single A4 sheet of blue, but I split it into half white and half blue just for that extra strength and to save on blue paper. we're going to fold it two ways, fold it diagonally, cut a section off, and then we're going to fold it horizontally as well. And that's just going to give the leg a little bit of leeway. And then this section here at the bottom, and that's just going to glue in into the shoe. And this bit, it's a bit scary doing this, but you basically need to cut down the sides there, and then we're going to glue the leg in. And again, because the leg's quite thick and the paper's quite thin, this took quite a long time for them to bond. And you can see this sort of half the section glues inside, and the other section sort of glues on top. And then I found I had to just add an extra section on to keep it held there, give it a bit more strength. And then the final piece of the puzzle are Sonic's hands, and I've gone for that sort of classic Sonic look with him having his hands in fists, because it's, again, we can create a nice sphere there to do that. And it's exactly the same as with the body, so you get about halfway through, and then you add in the top, or the bottom I suppose in this case, and then it's just a case of gluing them all together. And then at the very end we're going to sort of cut round at each cutting point and fold them up, which gives us just enough space in order to sort of add some wrists. And again, that's a small slice of paper, and that just glues in there. And then it's gluing in two places. You glue on the wrist section and the very end of his arm. And again, it takes quite a while to glue it in there, but eventually it'll stick. And the final section is just to add the head to the body. And again, using blue wool, you could use string, and then just sort of tying it off really as tightly as you can to allow a bit of movement in the head left and right, but not too much. And there he is, in all his glory. So there you have it, a Sonic the Hedgehog puppet made out of a few sheets of paper. Whoa! A whole day's work in just a few short minutes! You really know how to speed things up, buddy! That's faster than my spin attack! Appreciate it. And thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know what you think about the puppet in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Okay, right, thanks for bringing me to life, buddy, but I've gotta go! Bye, Sonic. Take care.